You guys, it's time. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be doing a spoiler-filled discussion and review on one of my favorite duologies, The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle Jensen. As I told you guys in my very first video, I did order these from Danielle. They are signed editions and I'm in love. I'm honestly really grateful for Danielle for doing this. So because of the pandemic, there aren't a ton of in-person events going on. And so she is still offering little things that she can do for her readers and her fans, which I think is really awesome. So in my first video, I did recommend this duology. It is an enemies to lovers fantasy, and it is going to be following two main characters, Lara and Arin. So Lara is a princess who was trained from childhood to be a spy. Lara's father is the king of Meredrina, and he has a ton of wives. Beside the point, but I just thought I'd mention that. So he has a bunch of daughters all at the same age, and he raises them to be spies. And they are all going to be competing to be chosen to be the one girl who is going to get married off to the king of Ithacanna. So this was a deal that was formed between the king of Ithacanna and the king of Meredrina, which is Lara's father. And so Lara's father is raising her and her sisters to be spies. So whoever gets chosen to marry the king will go over there, be their queen, and be able to send information back. So Lara ends up being the one who's chosen. Lara, at the very beginning of the book, she poisons her sisters so that way she's the only one left alive. So that way she can be the one to be sent to Ithacanna. And so my first impression was, geez, this girl's ruthless. But we figure out that she's actually doing it to protect her sisters. And so she actually gave them a poison that slows down their heart or makes it seem like they're dead, but they end up coming back to minutes later after everyone's already gone. So her idea was that they get an opportunity to run and live a normal life. And so she sacrifices herself and she goes to Ithacanna with still the idea that she is going to be a spy for her father. Arin is the king of Ithacanna at this time, and he is seen as a really heartless king. Meredrina is really suffering at this point, so the people there are starving, and the king of Ithacanna, from what we see, is choosing to give them rotten meats, and he only cares about himself. And so Lara is all for going there and spying and helping take down this king in order to save her people. But like in a lot of books, once she gets to Ithacanna, things are a lot different from what she thought they were, including its king. So she gets to know Arin, but the entire time she is pretending to like him or pretending to be a good queen, while she's actually spying the whole time. And her intention is to get information about how to cross through the bridge and send that back to her father. So it's called the Bridge Kingdom because there is this giant bridge that connects all of the lands, and it is used for trading and it's very profitable. And currently Ithacanna has possession of the bridge. They rule over it, which is why they are so much more powerful than Meredrina. The only other way to access the kingdom or the island is through the water, which is very, very dangerous. There's sharks for one thing, and then it's also really, really hard to travel through the water during like the storm season. And so the only way to get there is through the bridge. And it's very secretive. The only people that know about it are the trusted people in Ithacanna. So this is going to be the king and people in his army and trusted circle. And so Lara really tries to get close to him and the people around him to try to figure out how to get into the bridge. And so there are different moments that she's able to get some of this information. She's also trained to kill in any way possible. She's skillful with a bow and arrow, with a dagger, combat fighting, poisons. She's incredibly intelligent. She's been raised this way for many, many years. I don't know why that excites me so much. Is that something I should be concerned about? But the whole time that she is spying and pretending to be like this good, loyal person to Aaron, she's actually starting to develop feelings for him, and he definitely is developing feelings for her. And so this starts to create a conflict in the book, is that they're developing these feelings for one another, but Aaron has no idea her true intentions. And this is hard for Lara too, because she does like Aaron, or at least she's starting to, and she's also starting to like the people there, and she's seeing that a lot of what her father told her and what they all believe back home is very conflicting to what she's actually seen. But she is still determined to carry out with her goal and sending information back. And in the back of the book, I think it says it perfectly. It says, "What if you fell in love with the one person you'd sworn to destroy?" Meh, meh, meh. I love Lara and I love Aaron. I think they're such a good couple. Aaron is really funny and very, very loyal to his people and a good king. He's a good guy, which we learn, and that makes it really hard for Lara to not like him and to want to deceive him. So Lara is really torn. She is in a really tough spot. And meanwhile, me, the reader, is like, no, Lara, don't do this. Really open your eyes. Don't be stupid. But it's difficult. She's been trained her entire life to hate this man. And so she's really struggling with that. There are other characters in this book that I feel like were really awesome, like Jeb, who is like Aaron's second in command. He's an older guy and he's honest and brutally honest and pretty funny and tough, and I like him. And he has a pretty large role in the books. He's always there, and he's like a father figure to Aaron, and he cares about him a lot. Some of my favorite scenes from book one, The Bridge Kingdom, were any scene where they're at Snake Island. I hate snakes. I am literally terrified of snakes, but this island is like full of snakes. They are everywhere, and they are poisonous, and they will paralyze you and they'll eat you. But there is a secret way into the bridge through Snake Island, and so to get to that little entrance, you basically have to like run and book it while other people are trying to distract the snakes. But they're basically running and crawling after you, and you barely make it by a second. But Aaron does this, and it was like so intense. And we start to see like Lara showing Aaron that she really does care for him, because she's like, "What are you doing, you idiot? Get back in the boat." And he's doing it to get her attention. He's doing it to prove that she cares. Anyway, things are going good between Lara and Aaron, and so that's what makes the betrayal at the end so hard. So before Lara really fell for Aaron, she wrote these secret letters for her father that are in like invisible ink. And she wrote them on multiple letters. That way, anytime Aaron sent out a letter, she knew that one of them, even if it was just one that got sent out, it would have all of the information on how to invade Ithaca through the bridge. So this is information that she had been gathering her entire time there, and she put it all on these letters. And so she realizes toward the end that she really does love Aaron, and she realizes that everything that her father told her was all lies, and that he is actually the bad king in trying to blame it on Aaron and trying to gain the bridge for his own greed. And so she goes into Aaron's room when he's not looking, and she destroys these letters. That way the information doesn't get out to her father. But she missed one. Aaron sends out a letter to her father. He sends that out not knowing that it had all of the information on how to invade Ithaca on the back in this invisible ink. And Lara doesn't know that he sends this letter. Aaron keeps this a secret. And so at the very end, we get a surprise visit from Marilyn, Lara's sister, one of the sisters that she had poisoned in order for them to fake their deaths and run away and her go to Ithaca. Well, Marilyn was her biggest competition, and she was always such a sweet girl, very, very talented, and she knew that Marilyn was gonna get picked, which is why she had to come up with that entire plan. Well, unbeknownst to Lara, Marilyn wanted to win the competition. She wanted to be the queen. She wanted to be this ruthless spy. She was basically just as evil as her father. And so Marilyn comes to Ithacanna using the information on that letter and says, "Thanks for the tip, sister. We're now invading. And as we speak, all of Father's people are on their way and attacking Ithacanna." And she's holding a knife to Aren's throat. And she's angry. She's like, "You took my chance at being the queen." And Laura ends up killing her and saves Aren. But it's too late. Aren now knows about her betrayal, and Ithacanna is now being invaded by Maradrina. And his people are being killed and held hostage, and he's about to lose everything, and it's because of Laura. And he loves her. So he's heartbroken, and he's angry, and he's scared for his king. And Laura is like freaking out. She's like, "No, there's no way. I destroyed all the letters. How did this happen?" And then that's when she finds out about the letter that he sent without her knowing. And so she is distraught. She feels horrible. She feels so guilty knowing that this is her fault. And so Aren takes her, and he takes her into the woods, and he gets a bow and arrow, and he says, "You need to run. Run or I will kill you right now." It's a heartbreaking scene. He's crying and he's saying, "I loved you. I trusted you and you betrayed me." To him, it now seems like none of it was real. So he no longer believes that Laura even loved him, that this was all just a ploy in order for Maradrina to invade Ithacanna, and that she really was a spy this whole time. And she's trying to convince him. She's like, "No, that is how it started, but I do love you, and I never intended to send that letter after I fell in love with you and after I found out the truth. But it's too late now," and she knows that. And so she's begging for his forgiveness and asking that he let her stay to fight her father, to free Ithacanna. But he no longer trusts her. And so he tells her to run, and she does. And that is the end of Bridge Kingdom. Worry not, because there's Bridge Kingdom number 2, the Traitor Queen. Traitor Queen was even better than Bridge Kingdom. I absolutely loved this book. So the second book follows the ending of the first one. So Ithacanna is invaded by Laura's father, the king of Maradrina, and he takes Aren captive. And so Aren is being held captive in his own kingdom, and all of his people are either in hiding or captured or killed. And Laura is on the run, so she's in hiding. But she finds out that Aren has been taken captive by her father, and so she's now set out to go back and save him. So Laura goes back to Ithacanna, and she finds Aren's sister, Anna. And Anna knows about Laura's betrayal, so she's like, "F you, what are you doing here? We don't trust you." But Laura basically tells her up front, "You need me. I'm the only one that can get in there and save Aren." She comes up with a plan of how she's going to take down this king. And her plan is now to recruit all of her sisters that she freed at the beginning of Bridge Kingdom. And this was really exciting because we never got to meet any of these characters except for Marilyn, who ends up being like really crazy and evil. So she sets out on this journey to find her sisters, and she does. And as angry as they are with what she did, they also understand and they're grateful because they are now free from the torture that their father put them under. Because, and I didn't mention this before, but whenever they were being trained all of those years to be this spy, they had to go through really awful stuff. They were tortured and they were beaten to the point where they no longer were afraid or no longer would feel that pain. They had to be molded into basically an assassin, someone who could withstand anything if they were caught. And so they were tortured by their father and his right-hand man, but they are grateful for her because they no longer had to go through that. So she recruits them and says, "I'm going in to save Aren, my husband and my love, and I'm gonna take father down. Are y'all with me?" And they're like, heck yeah. So that's kind of going on over here. And then back in Ithacanna is Aren, and he's being held captive by her father. Her father at this point doesn't know what happened to Laura, and so he's trying to figure that out by tricking Aren and threatening Laura. And so Arryn is confused at this point. From what he saw, Lara betrayed him. And so he believes that Lara is this horrible person, that she never loved him, and that she ran off and went back to her father at the end of Bridge Kingdom. But based off of what the king is saying, it seems now like Lara never did go back home. And so he's starting to think, what if what she said was true? What if she did love me? What if she did change her mind and that this was all an accident and all a mistake? And now she's on the run and hiding. But the king sets up a plan to keep Arryn captive because he knows that Lara will come back for Arryn. Lara and her sisters sneak into the kingdom dressed as these dancer girls. They free Arryn, and they also free Zara. While Arryn is being held captive, we meet a couple of different characters who are going to be important. So we meet Zara and Carice. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name. Anyway, so we meet Zara and Carice. So Zara is general for Valcata, and Carice is Lara's brother. So he is the only prince of Meredrina. And he is a lot like his father, so he's not very likable. But there's some really questionable stuff going on with Zara and Carice. And Carice makes a plan with Ara that whenever he does escape, he has to take Zara with him. And so we don't really know like the full extent of this deal, and we don't know a whole lot about Zara and Carice, just that this deal is going on. Anyway, so Lara and her sisters come in and they free Arryn and they take Zara with them. So Zara is now free and she does her own thing, okay? So she's kind of like out of the picture for a little bit. Then the new trajectory of the book is now Arryn and Lara are together and they are going to go on a quest to get aid for Ithacana. And so it's just them two together. And remember, Arryn is still confused as to whether she really does like him, if she can be trusted, and he's still really, really angry at her no matter what. And so there's a ton of tension, and Lara is trying to gain his trust back. So during this time that it's just them two together, Lara is really showing that she will do anything to help Arryn and his people, and that she really does hate her father for the way that he tricked her and her sisters. Arryn and Lara's relationship really does begin to grow once again, which I was very happy about. But Arryn really knows that there really can't be a relationship between them two. Everyone in Ithacana sees her as a traitor and they know what she did. So there's really no possible way that they can be together. No one will accept her as their queen. And so he's now struggling between his feelings for her and his loyalty to his people. And this is hard for Lara because she knows, she understands, but she loves him so much and she wants to redeem herself. And so this causes conflict, and there's going to be a lot of emotional chapters, especially chapter 50. I loved chapter 50. This is a significant moment for Lara and Arryn, but it's also a really heartbreaking one. This is where Arryn and Lara both are able to admit to each other that they love one another, they have an intimate night together, but then Arryn wakes up and he knows that he can't do this again, and so he basically says goodbye to Lara and he leaves her. Meanwhile, Lara's father has gathered some troops together and they are trying to get into Arendelle, one of the territories in Ithacana where a lot of his people are hiding and trying to survive. And so the king is trying to invade and take control of Arendelle. And so Arryn and his people are rushing over there, and Lara becomes aware of what's going on too. And so she on her own is trying to get over there to try to help in whatever way she can. And so then there's one kind of last final battle, and a lot of it's done in the water. So they're in their ship, and Lara gets there and she gets onto her father's ship and she kills him. And this really wasn't like a very emotional scene because she hates her father, and so she really had no sympathy or like pain at all in doing this, so she kills him. But this is a really big moment because this is what really liberates everyone. All of the Meredrina soldiers fall back now that the king is dead. and there's no more threat to Ithacanna now. But the only way to get off of the boat to get into the water. And these are shark-infested waters, remember you guys. And so Laura is in the water with all of these sharks and she's trying to swim to safety. Aaron finds out what Laura did and that she's stuck in the water, and so he goes to try to save her. This became a bit difficult, but he does get her out. And so the ending is really nice because there's no longer a threat to Ithacanna, and Laura and Aaron are together, and people no longer see Laura as the Traitor Queen. They see her as someone who killed her own father in order to save them, despite all of the hate that she got, because there was a lot of times where people were horrible to her and they treated her really poorly because of what she did, even though she didn't mean to. And so everyone forgave her and they were able to see her now as their true queen. And so it was a nice ending. I really did like it. And this is honestly one of my favorite duologies. I might say it is my favorite duology. I'm just gonna say it right now. It is my favorite duology. There's just so much to say about this book. There's so much that Danielle did well that I really loved. The romance was terrific in this book. The pace was incredible. I really liked that throughout the first book, Laura didn't rush into her feelings for Aaron. She didn't immediately give up her quest because she fell in love with Aaron. I feel like that would have been a little too easy. And because Laura was so determined to take down Aaron and his people, despite her feelings, I think that's what really built the conflict. That's what made the betrayal so much harder, and we needed that emotion, so we needed that to happen. But Traitor Queen is really about Laura trying to redeem herself and help Aaron save his people and his kingdom, and so she's able to do that in the end. She's able to take down her father and free everybody in Ithacanna, and her and Aaron end up together, which is fantastic. That is what I wanted. But besides the romance, there's other really great elements to these books. The world building was really good. There's so many details in these two books. There's multiple different territories and kingdoms. There's a ton of different culture, clothing, conflict. There's a lot of fighting in these two books, which I really liked. I love action. I love reading like the battle scenes, and we have like a really strong female character in Laura. So it was really exciting being able to read those scenes. I just feel like throughout both books, I was on my toes, like not knowing what was gonna happen. Like it was so suspenseful, and it just kept you interested the entire time. I kid you not, guys. I pulled an all-nighter and read these books in 2 days. Like I did not sleep. I had to finish the books. And so if that tells you anything, it tells you that it's that good that you cannot sleep until you finish these books. And so I highly recommend them. I would give this duology as a whole, I'd say like 4.8, or I don't even know. Is it possible to give a book 5 stars? I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna give them 5 stars. Like that's just how much I enjoyed them. I think the only thing that I would say is I wish there was more. This is the end of Aaron and Laura. So Danielle is doing a spin-off series that is going to include Zara and Carice, which is why I mentioned them earlier as being important characters to know. So they're gonna have their own series. Danielle did mention though in an Instagram post that Laura and Aaron may appear in those books, but their journey is over. They're no longer going to be the center point because there's no more conflict between them. So that kind of made me sad. I really wish that there was like an epilogue or another like short novel or something that could give us a little bit more for these two, but there is not, and there's not going to be. And so I think that's the only thing that made me sad, is that this is the end of their journey. But I really enjoyed it. It was just such an exciting duology, and I love enemies to lovers, and I love that Danielle took a risk with this in having our main character Laura make such a huge mistake that potentially cost her her love and all of the people in Ithaca. And it just shows like how strong Laura is to have gone through all of the things that she did growing up and not having like parents who loved her and believing that this world was so cruel, and then still having the fight in her to turn around and switch sides and try to protect the very people that she was convinced were horrible people. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you read this duology. You have to do it. This needs to be on your to be read list for 2022. If it's not, then you are really missing out. But that's it for today, you guys. Thank you for watching once again. I really love this duology, so I hope that you go read it. Let me know what you think about it. Drop some comments down. And be sure to like and subscribe if you like to watch more videos. Mwah.